Today's recipe is for those of us that thought you can never make homemade bread. We're using simple ingredients. We're making a 5-seed, no-knead bread. Let's start by reviewing our ingredients. I have 3 cups of all-purpose flour. I have pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, flaxseed, sesame, and chia. I also have some active yeast. I'll need a little bit of warm water, and then just time. Our first step is combining all of our dry ingredients. So in my bowl, as you can see, I have my 3 cups of all-purpose flour. I'm using 2 tablespoons of unsalted raw pumpkin seeds. Also 2 tablespoons of raw untoasted sunflower seeds. 2 teaspoons of whole flaxseed. I'm choosing to keep them whole. If you want to divide them and do half ground flax and half whole flax, you're welcome to do that as well. 2 teaspoons of sesame seeds. And finally, 2 teaspoons of chia seed. I'm also adding in a little bit of salt, which helps not only with flavor, but with the leavening process. Once all of my dry ingredients are combined, I like to use a whisk to just make sure everything is well incorporated. You could also use your hands or a fork. Next, let's activate our yeast. So I have a small bowl here, and I have my 3/4 teaspoon active yeast. For those of us that want to get into baking, I always say it's better on the wallet to buy the jar of active yeast and just keep it in your refrigerator. It's much better than just the individual packets. So that's my little tip to you. So the first thing that we'll do, I'm adding my yeast to my bowl, and then we'll need some warm water. So in my kettle here, I just ever so lightly warmed a little bit of water. You don't want it boiling, you don't want it too hot. If you're going to take the temperature of the water, it should be less than 100 degrees Fahrenheit. We'll be using 1.5 cups warm water. This is 1 cup. With my whisk, I'm just going to move this around a little bit. This just kind of wakes up the yeast to get it active. Good. Now let's incorporate. In the middle of our bowl with our dry ingredients, we're going to make a little hole. And slowly we're going to pour in our warm water and yeast. Your hands will get dirty. Let's start incorporating. If you find that your dough is still a little dry, wet your hands and keep working it together until everything is incorporated. One of my favorite tools is also to use a bread scraper as you go, because this will allow you to pull all of those bits from the side of your bowl to be incorporated. My dough still looks a little dry, so I'll be wetting my hands and continue to incorporate. Remember, this isn't kneading, we're just incorporating the ingredients to make sure we have one solid piece of dough. My final step is just using my dough scraper one more time just to make sure everything is incorporated. All of my ingredients are mixed, all of my dry ingredients are incorporated, and I have my mass of dough. Next step is just waiting a little bit of time. Cover your bowl with either saran wrap, I'll be using a kitchen towel, and you want to let your dough rise for 6 to 8 hours. The goal is to let it double in size. So if it's cold or winter or fall where you are, and maybe your kitchen isn't the warmest place, you can always heat up your oven just a little bit and place your bowl in your oven, checking on it maybe halfway through. That's what I'll be doing. So I'll be back and I'll see you in 6 to 8 hours. Okay, it's been 6 hours. My bread has doubled. It was bubbly. I just punched it down, and now we're gonna take those final steps before we're getting ready for the oven. So, first thing you wanna do is on your clean countertop, we're gonna add a little all-purpose flour. Because your bread is gonna be sticky, that's okay. I'm gonna add a little bit of all-purpose flour on top. We're gonna turn this out onto the countertop. We're just gonna do a couple folds onto itself. We just wanna fold this a little bit, a couple times. Not really kneading, but just folding. Perfect, great. Okay, once we do a couple folds, we're gonna turn it over. We wanna form this into a ball. So I just want you to turn, quarter turn over, quarter turn, until we get a really beautiful loaf like this. Final step, we're gonna finish it with a couple more seeds on top so it really has a beautiful crunchy texture. So I am just gonna I have some sunflower seeds and pumpkin seeds, and I'm just going to press into the crust of our bread here. Some fall off, that's okay. We're just gonna gently press it in, no big deal. But this will really finish off this bread nicely, okay. We have one final rise before we go into the oven. So the first thing that we wanna do is just, again, create that warm environment. So I'm gonna place my loaf on this baking sheet with parchment paper. Ever so gently, give it a little bit of a lift. If you lose some seeds, no big deal. We can push them back on. Right? We're gonna let this rise again in a warm place with a towel on top. So I have my towel that I used before. I'm just gonna lay this on top here for another hour to an hour and a half, depending on how warm your environment is. When it's about halfway through, we're gonna turn our oven on to 450 degrees Fahrenheit. When we're about half an hour away from getting ready for our loaf to go into the oven, we're gonna turn our oven on to 450 degrees. We're also going to be baking this loaf in a Dutch oven, and I'll show you how to preheat that Dutch oven before our bread goes inside to make sure it doesn't stick to the bottom. So I'll see you back here in another hour. It has a beautiful brown crust to it. When you knock on it, it should sound a little hollow. Definitely does. Now, as much as we want to dive into this and cut this up immediately, you do want to let this cool for at least 15 minutes. So let it rest a little bit, let it cool down, and I will be showing you what this looks like when it's completely cool. But congratulations, you've made bread. Enjoy it in whatever way you want. I know I'll be having some avocado toast in the morning tomorrow, and I'll share with you what that looks like. I hope you enjoy this recipe. I hope you try the bread on your own. Good luck, and we'll see you again soon.